Good morning.
My name's Bausor. I'm English and I live in France. Look into my eyes, look into my eyes. Those are dollar signs. I'm going to be talking to you this morning about making money, making more money, and increasing the interest and the fun that you have in your EFL career. If you find this terribly vulgar, I would ask you to leave the room immediately. But I'm imagining that nobody here is offended by the word selling, since you did enroll for the workshop, right? So when you leave the workshop at the end of my talk, you will have examined your own career as it is today. You will have some ideas to develop it, and we will have done some very hands-on stuff. This is a workshop, so you're going to work, okay? So why am I interested in this particular subject? It has for many years occurred to me that EFL trainees are a particularly devoted professional group. We work so hard. And like many of you, I have the opportunity of teaching people from other professions, other careers, and I don't sense that same sort of commitment or devotion on the part of accountants, for example. My accountant doesn't seem to get upset if I give him negative feedback over the way he's done my balance sheet, in the way that I sometimes get upset if I get less than good feedback after a lesson. We prepare our lessons. We often over-prepare our lessons. We talk to our colleagues. We read books. We go to conferences, often at our own expense. And it seems like we are carried along in a huge momentum which often corresponds to that of the academic year. Even if we don't work in the world of academia, the month of September is the month when mentally, psychologically we start all over again, and we get carried along in this amount of enormous work, and we forget our own career under the pressure of the immediate upcoming academic year. We teach things that we often don't practice ourselves. We teach public speaking, and many of us don't often speak in public. We teach negotiation, and we don't have the opportunity or give ourselves the opportunity to negotiate our own salaries. We often teach management models, and we don't have a manager. And we certainly don't have a caring, nurturing manager whose preoccupation is to help us to progress. I have a slide, which you may know this model of management is Belbin's. And the idea is that the manager adapts his management style in accordance with the profile of the guy on his team, so that he is able to help his employee, his team member, to go from a state where he is incompetent, that is, he does not yet possess the skills, not incompetent as in useless, but I don't yet know. So the person who is learning and motivated, to take that person to a state of being confident and still motivated. And sometimes in the manager's team, he deals with people who are not only incompetent, but they're not very motivated either. So how to get this guy here, and the people who are competent and non-motivated, how to get them to this optimum box as well. So we know this model theoretically, but how many of us have actually experienced a manager who has taken us by the hand and said, that's where we go. Bearing this in mind, and as we saw, I expect most of us are teachers, teacher trainers, authors, independent trainers. We're all concerned in the world of EFL. I'm going to ask you a crunch question. Could you please be kind enough to raise your hand if you think you're underpaid? Okay, now just one moment, please, because I'm going to give you a teacher thing. When the speaker asks you to raise your hand, you don't look at the speaker, you look around the room to see who else has put their hand up. So, underpaid? Have a look. Okay, thank you. And how many people here would like to earn more? Okay. Have you thought about how much more you'd like to earn? Twice as much? Or it depends. Shall we go for twice as much, anybody? How about twice as much but work?
Less.
Less. Thank you. 50% less.
I'm all for that.
This seems to me to be rather an important point. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to take a few moments to talk to the person who's next to you, just to exchange. Now, if you're sitting with your boss, you might like to change places. Or not. Or not. It's a great opportunity. So, insofar as the majority of people are guys you probably won't see again until next year's conference, perhaps you would feel enough trust to exchange with them very, very quickly how you're presently feeling about your pay slip. Okay? And I'll give you 3 minutes or so to do that. Is there anything that you'd like to share?
Well, here we're talking about that sometimes the problem is with the market. If we are freelancers and you work, if you have corporate clients, it's very difficult to charge more because of the market. Even though maybe you can be very well qualified or you whatever, but so sometimes the market fixes the price and you have to manage that.
You don't want to price yourself out of the market.
Well, we discovered that whether it's Bahrain or Germany, it's a big difference between the public sector, that's very low paid, especially when you work for institutes and schools, because they have fixed rates, and the private sector. So, Hannah said actually, she works for the Ministry of Education, and in the afternoon she has to teach business English to private companies because they pay better.
Okay. Okay. And I guess this varies from country to country, right? So,
Disparities, pay
sure.
slips, depending on the countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming from an engineering background, I'm fascinated how little we charge for English language training, particularly in the business context, because we're not just delivering English, we're delivering competence and skills that in other industries you would have to pay a lot of money.
This actually happened to a colleague of mine. She was teaching telephoning skills in English and arrived there and got her normal EFL salary and discovered the person who had been in the room before her had been teaching the same thing in German, which is the native language, and had earned, I think, something like 5 or 6 times as much. And this was one of the questions. Why does that happen? We're offering a dual thing, and we get
added value.
less. So,
Because it's not realized. Customers don't realize that.
How many examples do we have of this happening?
Yeah.
It seems like we're teaching the skill and in English.
Yeah.
That should be more expensive, not less, right? Okay. We'll come back to that. Public versus private. Was there anything else? Okay, well, my leitmotif during this presentation is going to be the necessity to have a plan, a career plan. And the funny thing is, all the strategies that one needs to define and roll out a plan are strategies that we already teach our students when they are learning. So we know how to do it, but very often we don't. So who am I to teach you all this? Well, I am, in fact, a fortune teller. And my crystal ball tells me that you've already broken all your January New Year's resolutions. That for the rest of the year, you will gain 2 pounds of body weight. Some people don't. That the patterns, problems, and strategies that you have been fighting to change so far will continue to remain problematic for you. That your salary at the end of this year will be exactly the same as your average salary in the past 5 years. And when you get to the 31st of December, you will probably find you haven't done half of what you intended to do during this calendar year. Now, I don't want to be offensive by saying that. I hope it's not too close to the bone. I just want to be realistic, because statistically this is what happens to the majority of people. So, how do we break that mold? How do we finally get to do something different? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own story, and it's not because I think I'm a wonderful example. On the contrary, I started getting interested in sales and marketing relatively late in life, and I wish I had found out about all this earlier on. Such is life. Am I rich? Well, no, I'm not actually, because I started late. But at the moment, I am at the head of a $1 million company with offices in 4 different places. I have 35 employees, and I'm implementing at the moment my strategy to sell the business to do something more interesting and more profitable. So that's where I'm at. In fact, what happened to me was that I was an EFL teacher, and after many, many years of procrastination, I finally decided that I would go for it, and I bought the business. So since 2003, I have been a business owner. I've been having a wonderful time. It's not easy, but what I'm going to say to you today is the result of that experience. Okay? So the structure of my presentation is very simple. We're having a look at where we are now. We're going to find some possibilities together of where we could possibly go, which is okay with us, with the person we are, with our personality, our lifestyle, our ambitions, and some practical paths to get there. Okay? So, where are we? As I said, in this room we certainly have, I already know that we have school teachers, there are probably university lecturers, people who work for private schools, self-employed consultants, trainers, coaches, whatever the difference between trainer, coach, and consultant is, authors. So, if we could disprove what I just said about basically we're doing the same thing today as we did 5 years ago, I just want to make sure that that is more or less right. Could you think back over the past 5 years and make a list of what you're doing professionally today that you didn't do 5 years ago? What's new? What have you developed? What have you gone for? What are new skills that you've learned and that you are using? You might care to change partners. Think about it, and then you can exchange. Okay? And you've got 5 minutes. I'm sure we have a typical bunch of ESL people here, and you've learned loads and loads of things in the past 5 years, including a whole new set of technological skills. Am I right? So what else? What else have you learned? What else have you learned how to do now that you didn't know how to do 5 years ago?
We're much more focused. When I say we, my wife and I from a small school, much more focused on doing what we need to be doing rather than doing perhaps what we wanted to be doing. We wanted to improve.
You've got a plan. Great.
I wouldn't put it quite that strong.
I plan according to the needs analysis of the market.
Okay, corresponding to needs rather than building general programs. Excellent. What else?
And then continuing my own professional training, doing an NLP Masters over 4 years, giving me more credibility in terms of coaching.
Wonderful. The management, part of the management model is helping to organize continuous training for the person you're managing. And how logical is this? We trainers, and we very often don't benefit from training ourselves. Great. What else? Anything else?
I think we discussed also the reason why we're willing to accept SP because we like our students, we like what they're doing, and so we've got devotion. And then I say, oh yeah, I'm going independent, I can take all classes that I like, and then we don't really cut them because I'm profitable. But the people are so nice and it's good work from there.
Sure. Oh, it is very difficult. So that is to say we have become more skilled, but the prices that we are charging are usually lower because even though inflation exists and everybody's rent has gone up, everybody's electricity bill and food bill has gone up, the hourly rate that we are charging or being paid has probably gone down. Okay, so we'll come back to that, how to charge higher rates for a better product. Anything else?
Remote working.
Oh yeah.
Outsourcing and working out ourselves.
Okay, using Skype, video conferences, blending courses. Okay, which we didn't know how to do 5 years ago.
Not very well.
Okay, so how can we advance? What can we do? What can we do now which can lead us to bigger paydays? Why are you learning NLP, Annette? What's the objective there?
To have more credibility vis-a-vis my customers who I offer coaching to.
Okay. So she's going to use this magic word coach.
I can't pay you more because I don't like coach because everybody in France is a coach now.
It is a word which has become very, very hackneyed.
Yeah.
And very often doesn't have any clear meaning. In France, the next question is, where did you train? Where did you train? If you're a coach.
I also work in France, and I say I'm a trainer, but my corporate clients prefer, they think it's more prestigious to say, she's my English coach.
Okay.
So they seem to like that.
Trainer, as opposed to teacher, also has a little bit more of a ring about it.
One of the things that we're actually actively working on at the moment is to develop a passive income. In other words, producing materials for our students to use as follow-up and hopefully exploit that more widely commercially. 2 reasons for that. One is sort of money's coming in from my fast asleep. And secondly, we're not as young as we used to be to have some more time off, so that goes back to what you were saying earlier.
Most of us are working with a model where we're selling or we're earning dollars for our time. franc or euros or pounds or whatever. Unfortunately, there are only 24 hours in a day. There are only so much we can do. There are only so many administrative jobs that we can do to get paid to complement our salary. Whereas if we change the model and start selling material, distance learning courses, products that can generate income, as you say, while we're asleep, we are multiplying our possibilities of making money. So that's a whole different model. And it's a model which is, the older you get, the increasingly attractive it is, isn't it? Anything else?
Just say, I'm trying to move away from extensive courses where you teach like people 2 lessons a week to intensive courses, because workshops are negotiable. So for workshops I can renegotiate and I charge 2 or 3 times as much as I charge for extensive lessons.
Very often it seems as though we are selling the same thing but packaged differently or presented differently, which is going to allow us to charge a higher price. I went out into Brighton the other day, and there's a cafe up the road which doesn't sell coffee and cake. It sells kick-ass coffee and life-changing cake. Aren't there days when we could do with a slice of that? So, you know, it's probably just cake, really. But in terms of marketing, those rather amusing sentences have created increased desire on the part of the future customer. So, do we have to learn marketing skills as well as all the EFL? I think so. Have a look at this model. This is a model which is used by Robert Kiyosaki. I read it because I can't remember how to pronounce it. Who has written a lot of books on how to get rich. Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. And I like his cash flow quadrant very, very much, because he says basically there are 4 main ways to make money. That is, you're an employee, which means that you have a job. Or you're self-employed, in which case you own a job. But in both cases, it's the hours for dollars model. You can be a business owner, which is that you, in which case you then own a system, and you get other people to work for you, potentially generating more money, but sometimes more headaches as well, because you've got to manage the people. And then you can be an investor, which is perhaps not pertinent in the illustration of the effect. So those are the 4 ways. We're going to have a look at all 4 of them and see which ones offer the most possibilities for it. So the first one, E, it's you have a job. You work in a school, private or public. You sell hours or you earn a monthly salary. Very often it would appear to us that there's not much scope for earning more money. We can go along and ask for a pay rise. But in my case, for example, I run a language training organization which often sells training on an hourly basis. Yeah, it's messy. It takes a lot of time, and it's often 2 hours a week. And the hourly rate is not going up. It has a tendency to remain stable or to go down in France. So therefore the trainer who says to me, could I please have a pay rise, is not going to be favorably received unless he says, I want to be promoted because I have something extra that I can give you, which is of value to you. Last night at the dinner I was talking to one of our colleagues who works in a school in Sweden, and she she teaches English and French, so we were talking about the visits that she organizes with her students. She takes them to France every year. She has a great time. She takes them to a cheap hotel, and then she takes them around Paris. She's organized the trip from A to Z. She doesn't go to a tour operator. She does everything herself. She buys the tickets, she gives the talk, she accompanies them, and everybody has a wonderful time. And you can be sure, now if I see her again, I'll ask her, you can be sure that she doesn't get paid any extra for that. But that product, which she has designed, has market worth. She can sell it to other schools in Sweden. And I'll tell her that when I see her again. She just needs to package it and to roll it out and offer it to other schools in Sweden to say, this is how to take your guys to France on the cheap and have a good time. Okay? Once she's done something like that, she might like to go on to training other trainers to do that, which means that she would be asking her boss to promote her, to give her a more interesting, well-paid job opportunity within the framework of the company. You need to be a bit creative to do that, but it's possible. Become a specialist. Become a specialist, become a specialist. If you want to earn money within your job, make sure that you are recognized as an authority in one particular field. Whatever, if you've got the time and energy. Banking. The subject that turns you on, that interests you, has market worth. And you can become a self-appointed expert. I'm a specialist in. And you decide you're a specialist because you've read a zillion books. Maybe you've read a few articles. Maybe you've put together a course, a program. So you're a specialist. And the more you specialized, the more you will be recognized and the more specialized you will become. Right. AFL teachers don't write enough. Write articles, write reviews, write blogs, write books, and go and talk. Even if you work for public schools, the state school system, whatever the country, there are organizations in your country which will provide a forum for you to go and communicate. And you go international, place like this. If you're self-employed, then you own a job. And your problem, guys, is to sell something different. Something which smacks of that famous magic potion that all our students are looking for in every country. You know the one that you inject in the veins, or the tablet, the potion that they drink with, boom, they wake up and they don't speak English. Corporate France goes mad for this. It doesn't exist, as far as I know. You know, I guess we would be using it if it did exist. But if you are able to propose a solution which hints that it is different, that it is magic, and that it is added value, people are going to go for it. And I myself have one of those examples, Marjorie. The other day, a company in France asked us for a public speaking course. And I was so busy, I delegated it to somebody who set off. You know, we have pages, courses, one-page course descriptions for open or closed programs in public speaking, meetings, telephone skills, blah, blah, blah. So we had one on public speaking, and off it went. Luckily, the head of the company knew me. And she said, no, that's not what we want. She said, this is the name of the person we work with. And I went and had a look on the web at the name of an English consultant, a Scottish consultant actually, a young woman who has a very, very nice website and who presents herself as being an authority in communication. She's not an English teacher. She's an authority in communication, and she specializes in the art of public speaking. When I looked at her program, no surprise to you, it was exactly the same. 3 times the price. And my price was half. 3 times. As you said. So, it was a huge aha moment. Come on, Bausor, start practicing what you preach. And I sat down and I went home and took my own time, once again, hard on marriage, and whipped off a description of a course in which I was the star. Because that's what they want. If you're going to sell something different, then you are the face behind it. People are interested in people. We know this. We're in a people-based job. Our students love us, and we think they're so nice. And they love you too, and think that you too are really nice. So pump it. Make yourself a star. Make yourself a specialist of public speaking, of whatever it is. I'll give you another example from my company. We work in INSEAD, which is one of the top business schools, administration schools in France. It's in Paris. And we sell a pretty funky how to be more efficient in English program. And they love it. We work with the PhD students. They think that the program is absolutely fantastic. We do it year after year, and we charge a very, very high price for that. High compared with the standard price for English EFL training. The other day, the director of IATEFL Paris, who was doing this program, he said to me, you know, in the room next door there was a guy, and his program was called The Secrets of Communication. He said it didn't look much fun. They were all sitting down and they were all behind tables, and it was very much lecture mode, theory. Whereas I've got them moving and grooving and making gestures and analysing their style and filming. It was more animated, more dynamic, more fun. This was just a theoretical course, probably a very high value, because in Seattle they do tend to be quite demanding. So we went and looked up the guy on the net, and I encourage you to do the same. His name is Stephen Knight. It seems as though he's a journalist. What do you look for in France? You look for those university degrees. You look for the high prestige business schools that he's been to. Couldn't find any business schools, couldn't find any degrees. He's a journalist. He's selling the secrets of communication. He's selling a lot of other attractive stuff that you'll see on his website. Check out the INSEAD website. You see Mr. Stephen Knight being interviewed and talking with great authority about the secrets of communication. These are secrets, ladies and gentlemen, that we all know, because we're all EFL teachers. But we don't package them as secrets. We give them away. How stupid is that? How can we be there for our nice, low-paying students if we're not earning enough money to continue doing the job that we love? How many colleagues do we know who have changed jobs, who've changed careers, abandoning all the know-how and experience that they have because they're not making enough dosh? It's a pity. Check out the guy. He's doing exactly the same as we are, but he's marketing it in a different way. So what's stopping us from doing that? Marketing. Think of the way that we can sell kick-ass English. Change your life training. You own a system. You know there are franchises in English schools. Why not? If you want, it's fun. Fun to own a business. It's a bit scary sometimes. A bit lonely. If you own a system, it is a possibility. Even on a more modest level, and I think, Annette, you have some experience of that, of when you go in, you have a group of people and you do the star show. And then you say, now, you need 10 hours of telephone skills, you need 10 hours of meetings, you need 10 hours of improving your accent, you need 10 hours of something else, and I'm going to give you to my assistants who will take care of you. So you swan in, do the big star moment, and then you delegate the grunt work to capable, qualified colleagues. That's a system. And you take your commission. Okay. So there are a lot of things that we can do, and we know this intellectually. You know, what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, today is by no means new. So why are we doing it? Why is it that so far we generally moan about the same thing? The market, sure, there is a market price. In the same way is that there is a market price for McDonald's and there's a market price for meals with caviar. There's a market for both of these things. And our customers are very, very often willing to pay much more than we could imagine, as long as they have the impression that the product that we are selling them is reliable, corresponds to what they want, and that it is impeccably well presented. You don't give out scruffy flyers about a top quality program. All your literature looks wonderful. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have it printed. It means you take care and time about the way you communicate with your potential market. Okay? So the crunch question is, and here I'm going to ask you to exchange a little bit again, be honest. So why aren't you earning? Why aren't you charging more? What would happen? Would they not love you anymore if you increase the price? There's two. Is there not another way that you could generate extra income and more interesting work? What's stopping you? Be honest. Nobody's going to write it down. I'm being filmed, you're not. Could you take 5 minutes to make an analysis of why it is that you're not charging higher prices? What's stopping you from doing what you want? Okay, so why aren't you doing that thing? What's stopping you? Energy. It takes a lot of energy to prepare all those lessons that we're currently doing in order to make enough money to survive. Sure.
Security, because if you have this weekly income, it's there. With workshops and other things, you don't know if they're coming or not.
Sure.
So you need to pay the rent.
Clients cancel.
This is a big, big security. Okay. Even though we know There's no such thing as security
No.
in today's world. You know, look at the news. Every day we have examples of the complete insecurity that we live in. But we have to pay the rent. So how can we move from point A, where we have a regular monthly salary, to point B, which is, oh my God, I'm completely on my own, with relative serenity? There's perhaps a halfway stage. Working part-time, taking the time to build a biz, and then going by yourself. Oh, you said something, Marjorie, I wanted to come back to.
Said students canceling.
She said students cancel. Students cancel. Corporate students cancel all the time.
Yeah.
They
Make them
pay.
pay. Make them pay. Make
We do
them
have, I mean, we have arrangements where, you know, if it's 24 hours in advance. But sometimes it still is 24 hours in advance, and then,
Well, put it 72 hours in advance like I did.
But anyway,
put it 0.
yeah.
I'm a professional. You want my time? You pay for it. You don't, no show? You pay.
And as far as security, there's another type of security. When you're selling yourself, it's different than being in a shop and selling a concrete product. So it's a self-esteem
Yeah.
issue. How do I charge? Am I
Absolutely.
really worth this? How do I convince them that I'm worth this price?
That's where we're
Yeah.
our own
Worst enemy.
yeah, I was thinking about like, it's different. Actually, the best selling tool you have is yourself. You know, because it's actually it's word of mouth afterwards. It's like you need to deliver excellent things, so then people get to know you because they say, well, this and that, this person or this institution or this organization, wow, they deliver this price. It's not tangible what you're doing. It's tangible but not tangible.
So you're using testimonials, right?
Yeah, this is something you
Are you using testimonials?
No, but we're thinking about it. Yeah, because it's what people check.
Collect testimonials and use them. Stick them on your website, stick them on your visiting card, on your literature. Just to come back to this cancellation clause, let me teach you something which is precious, and you can repeat this to your clients. The planning is part of the program,
Yeah.
so there's no cancellation. No cancellation at all. You want to be respected, guys. You have to earn their respect.
Yeah.
Put your foot down.
But when you're dealing with C or in France D-level people and business is so unsure and he has a business or she has a business that I try and be flexible with it, but
I think
Here is the
there's
person who pays. The training manager, the human resources. Here is your client. The top manager, the CEO, the head of this, the head of that. The more demanding, the more professional you are, the more he will love it. The training manager will say, you know, cancellation. But the guy, he understands
it's his assistant who
being
doesn't.
respected
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
You don't deal with his
The
assistant.
assistant, not the HR. Yes, the
Just
assistant
don't
runs
do
the
it, assistant.
calendar. The assistant books the classes and it's his calendars.
Change it.
That's not how it works in Paris.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well-
But the planning is part of the program. Therefore, Mr. CEO, I deal with you. You can delegate it to your assistant, but these are the rules.
I was just going to say, one of the engineers, well, one of the things that I've used in the past, which I'm using increasingly, which is really quite successful, when people complain about the cost of our courses, can we have a discount please, because I can go to XYZ school for less. My response, and I'm not always strong enough to do it, but a good response is to say, well, I believe the course is worth that amount of money. Pay that for the first course, and if you don't think it was worth it, you get the second one free.
Great strategy.
Yeah.
Great strategy. And we perhaps feel more comfortable with that, because as you say, it's a question of being strong enough to do it. Because we go, oh my God, what are we going to do? We say, no.
Yes, but what happens when there is a system of a tender? Like we have ministries, like how the students assigned to, let's say, with the program that is English. And we have different competitors applying for the same tender.
Different ballgame, totally different ballgame. And we tenders. We answer tenders because in a market where we had an economic crisis in 2009, 2010, our volume of activity went up. We answer tenders and we know that the price is low. That's the name of the game. The hourly price is low, but you only accept tenders if you know you're going to make money on the volume. It's a totally different ballgame.
The comments about valuing ourselves, though, and believing that we charge enough, it's the same for our product and our system, because we run very intensive courses, and our system enables the clients to self-access when they go back, and their problem is time and how they get the most value out of their own study in their own time. But sometimes we become apologetic for that, and we kind of compare ourselves to the market, and we're not embedding that, and we're not saying, actually, this is the value we're giving.
This is why the planning is part of the program. It's not difficult to learn a language, is it? Is it? I mean, I would hope as trainers we all consider that it's easy and a joy to learn a foreign language. It's not difficult to learn a foreign language. As we all know, what's difficult is managing the time, being disciplined, having the self-discipline to stay to the end of the course. That's the difficulty. So, we are, in fact, selling time management. And we all know there's no such thing as time management. You can't manage time, you can only manage yourself. So we're selling personal management courses. So make it part of your program, and this is why I insist so much on the organization. Because more and more, with the sort of clients that we have in our company, I believe that they don't really need us at all. They don't need us. They can learn English by themselves. There are so many resources on the web and so many international clubs and conferences that they can go to. So why do they need us? They need us for the time management or to give a frame.
The other thing I find, like I do have some corporate clients, what they need me for is the break in the day.
Yeah.
Many of them, when I get there, they are incredibly stressed. And through establishing rapport and making it kind of fun, when I leave, they say, wow, now I can go back to work. So selling that part, and that part, yes, you can get paid more for it, because that is something really special. And I bring it up to HR every single time. I say, you know, I walked in and Mr. So-and-so, top, was really stressed at the end of the lesson. He said he felt he could go back to work better, and they say, oh.
Yeah. Another issue that I found out is sometimes maybe this is the opportunity, this very, to find time to look at different things, like interesting stories about things that happen in the world and they never have time to read or to discuss important issues, and they can do it with you because they have this hour.
Storytelling.
Yeah. No, but about important things that happen. Yeah.
In English.
But how many people have this in their literature? How many people use this when we present the course? It's a really valuable asset that you're delivering.
I think that corporate clients probably are a bit more nuanced. Sometimes on some groups of people they're willing to spend more money, and others, for other training purposes or development purposes, willing to spend less money. So I think just by going in and saying, I'm offering a better product, so you've got to pay me more than these other guys. But perhaps they don't want that. Perhaps they just want something, they don't want the first class seat, they want the economy class seat for these people.
You're right. Right. But you're not going to work with everybody. You're not going to work with everybody. Some people are quite happy with boxed under the cheap and cheerful English training.
Well, for different people, different purposes, you know. Like for the manager who's going to go and give a presentation in front of English speaker clients, who might be willing to pay more, but for the secretary who's answering the phone to people in English, they probably won't want to spend so much money on that one secretary as on that manager.
Sure. But you could do both.
But also,
you could do both, and as long as those products are clearly identified as being different price range.
But what he's talking about here is enterprise needs assessment. I mean, just what you described with the different tiers and the different needs, it's just, and I think that's one of the keys here, differentiating by showing how we add value to the bottom line of the business. And that starts with the enterprise needs assessment, then going down the different tiers at the individual level. And the program design is based on that.
But even before that, it depends who's buying, because if it's HR, if it's purchasing, I was in a company where it went from HR to purchasing, they were bottom line the cheapest. They didn't care about the quality. They wanted the cheapest price. If you've got HR, or if you have an into the company and this person says, I want you, you can pretty much, so, and that's why it's difficult to put everything black and white in literature. It's their break in their day, you know, they unload on me, you know, because I'm not involved. You can't really put that on literature. You can sell it to the person.
That's something that has changed. Okay, that's something that has changed very much over the past 10 years ago. I think I started seeing purchasing managers coming into to meetings in corporations, and now it's part of the course. So very often we don't even talk to the HR guy. It's the purchasing. The purchasing manager, as we know, has his or her objectives, which is to reduce the price by 30%, and they don't care about quality. But you can't work with everybody. There's a big market out there. Leave the McDonald's to them.
Never accept a contract if you're going to resent the low price you're getting.
It's going to take a lot more energy. Yes.
Exactly that. We only deal with senior management people and above a certain age, what have you, because that's what we're geared up to offer. But just the thing on stories, the other thing that we really sell is experience. We bring together senior managers from different businesses, and they can actually gain experience from other people's businesses. It's the same skills that they need in their job, but they're getting a new viewpoint because they've been in the company for 20 years or whatever. You know, and also different cultures and all these things. We've got to sell that.
There's great added value. Networking, which doesn't come from the trainer, but it comes from the whole sector. Wonderful. Sure.
And that's a great way also of increasing revenue, because that's what I've done relatively recently, pulled together 4 HR directors from 4 different companies. So then, in terms of an hourly rate, it's less than they do in a one-on-one course, but multiplying it by 4 for myself is much more profitable. And they're basically coming to benchmarking. They come in for 4 hours once a month, and they each bring their HR subjects to discuss, and I'm facilitating that. So it's really interesting for them. It's accompanying them, and it's
I suggest an interesting exercise for you to do is to list all the added value components that your training has, which are a result of the context, and not a direct result of you as you being a trainer. And that's great. Yes.
Just going to make a comment. That's the thing. You're selling yourself as a facilitator then,
Yes.
rather than as an English teacher or English trainer. So you're adding value, and that's what they're paying for.
Yeah, it's very often like this, and we don't know in advance.
The way you specialize.
Manage your customers as well, and then they come into the lesson, there's trays, and I had that awful meeting with those quality controllers. Then you start talking them through it. What they learn is actually negotiation skills, but it's an English training. So you do this all in English, and basically what you are, I mean, you learn a lot about negotiation management, but you can sell later. So my management customers train me to become a management trainer. But the problem we have is, I think, a very general dilemma. Can I ask if that's the same in every country? Germany is very specific on money. If you don't charge enough, you're not worth anything because you're not good. On the other hand, they want the highest quality for the lowest price, and that's the dilemma you're facing in the German market. Is that the same in your country? So we should move to behind some point.
If I could just comment on that, because what we're selling, we're based in the UK, selling intensive courses to people coming to the UK across the world. And traditionally our market was Germany, and there was a certain price that we charged. And when we try to take that price to other countries, they won't pay it. They don't view the same product in the same way, particularly because we're focusing more on Eastern Europe, Russia particularly. Their view of price is completely different to the Western European price that we've been selling successfully for 30 years.
That's because Germany, we were discussing this on a reset, that Germany, like Bahrain actually, values one thing, which is they see native speakers as a unique value proposition.
Yes.
So they pay more for sending people here or having them taught by native speakers than for any qualified native German speaker. Yeah, and I think that's also something. They can be lousy teachers. I took all my classes from college and I'm like, my God. Yeah, but I'm not naming anybody, but it was really. They got more money because they were native speakers, and native speaking schools in the UK
We
don't
know-
charge much at all.
That's kind of what's
We
happening in
know
Russia as well.
our own market so well that very often we forget that we've already done our market analysis and we are proposing products which correspond to our market. Then when we go elsewhere, sometimes we might come a cropper because we don't necessarily realize that the same criteria do not apply. So, how to increase your revenue? How to overcome the fact that you're not doing so far what you want to do? The first thing is really, really important to define your objective, to know what it is that you want. Do you want to be a famous expert in one particular branch of EFL? Do you want to set up your own country? Do you want to have people working? Define your objective. No secret. What's more difficult is to be actually in a state where you believe, not just intellectually, but in your heart and your gut, that you are capable of actually getting there. In order to nurture that belief, NLP calls this a reference state, that is, find a time when you did believe you were capable of doing something. And remember what it was like. And regenerate that every time you need it. Get yourself a coach. That's what our clients do.
Yeah.
The managers, they have a coach. So why not us? Go as fast as you can. You know the law of diminishing intent? The longer you wait, the less likely you are to do something. And do something great. Because as EFL trainers, we're all capable of doing something great. A lot of models in this organization. Find one, model him or her. And then define your plan and do it. Let me tell you to conclude what happened to me. Because I was chugging along as a junior partner in a training company. I wanted to be the boss, but my partner told me that I wasn't capable. And I believed. And what changed was that in 2002, I got so furiously angry that it got me out of that state. Instead of listening to that little inner voice that kept telling me, he says, you're not capable of being a manager. He says, you can't do it. Instead of listening to that voice, my anger took me to, I'm going to do it, and this is how it's going to be. And so there was no question about ability, competence, or not. I changed states. That's all. I've broken the model. And that allowed me to take over the company. So that's what you've got to do. Change states.
But I think that's also a gender issue.
We
were talking earlier about this and the presence of women in the business English field and how it impacts also maybe on bringing up a family and how that feeling of confidence can come maybe when your kids are 10 or 12, not when
One of the reasons it took me such a long time.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And it would be really, really interesting to hear from women who have younger children who are doing that, you know, what you're all explaining here, being successful.
Expert jugglers. Expert jugglers. But there are more and more women who are breaking through this glass ceiling. There are younger and younger women executives, not just in our field, but for sure. It's not easy. You know, why would we want to do it if it were easy? So there you are. Just to conclude, you know, I would say that one thing I seriously believe is when you go into a classroom and you say, hello guys, I'm an expert in time management, or I'm an expert in negotiation, or I would like to share with you my expert knowledge of management. Do you know what? They all believe you. They're ready to go. They say, great. They take what you say as gospel truth. What happens when you go into a language classroom? Everybody in the room thinks they know better than you how they should learn. That is how you should do your job. They all have different levels, varying degrees of motivation, and exceedingly different personalities. They have to like you. And you have to juggle all that and teach them English at the same time. And we know how to do that. And that's why we possess a set of serious skills that we can transfer to something more highly valued on the market. So it's up to you guys. I'm the best of British luck. Thank you.